My daughters humiliated me. They cheered for my failure at the Christmas dinner and laughed about sending me to a cheap nursing home. They had no idea I was still their secret CEO. The next morning, I called an urgent board meeting and fired them both. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started on Christmas Eve, in the dining room of the house I built. The mahogany table stretched 12 feet, set with china Rebecca and I had collected over 30 years. Crystal glasses caught the firelight. Everything looked perfect, like a magazine spread. That's what Victoria always wanted, the appearance of perfection. My older daughter sat at the far end, her husband Eric beside her. Victoria was 36, blonde, sharp-featured, wearing a white dress that probably cost $3,000. She'd always been the ambitious one, the one who thought she was smarter than everyone else in the room. Especially me. Lauren, my younger daughter, sat across from them with her husband, Sean. At 33, Lauren had perfected the art of looking innocent while being anything but. She wore soft pink, her hair in loose curls, the whole package designed to make people think sweet. I'd stopped buying it years ago. Rebecca sat to my right, elegant in navy blue, her silver hair pulled back. She caught my eye and squeezed my hand under the table. She knew what was coming. She always knew. "So, Dad," Victoria said, cutting into her prime rib with surgical precision, "we've been meaning to talk to you about your living situation." I took a sip of wine, waited. "The thing is," Lauren jumped in, her voice dripping with fake concern, "this house is really too much for you and Mom now. All these stairs, the maintenance. At your age—" "I'm 61, I said quietly. "Exactly," Eric said, like I'd just proved his point. "That's retirement age. Time to downsize, enjoy the simple life." The simple life. I let the words hang there. Sean laughed, already on his third glass of wine. "Come on, Andrew, you retired 5 years ago. The company's been struggling ever since. It's time to admit you can't handle things anymore." Victoria nodded, warming to her theme. "We've been looking at some very nice facilities. Assisted living, nothing fancy but clean, safe. Plastic cups and discount diapers," Eric added with a smirk. "But hey, at our age we all end up there eventually, right?" They all laughed. My daughters, their husbands, laughing at the idea of warehousing their father in some budget nursing home. Lauren actually raised her glass. "To Dad's retirement," she said, "and to finally moving on from his failure." They clinked glasses, drank. I looked at Rebecca. She was watching them with the cold, analytical stare she usually reserved for chess opponents. When she noticed me looking, she raised one eyebrow slightly. The question was clear. Now. I shook my head. Not yet. "You know what the problem is?" Victoria continued. She'd had just enough wine to get reckless. "You never really understood the business, Dad. You got lucky in the early years, rode some trends, but you never had the strategic vision. That's why when you retired, things started falling apart." "Is that right?" I asked. "It is," she said confidently. "Lauren and I have been trying to hold things together, but honestly, your name is a liability now. Everyone in the industry knows you failed." "Failed," I repeated. "Don't take it personally," Lauren said, reaching across to pat my hand. I pulled it back. "Some people are builders, some are maintainers. You were never really either. You were just there." Sean was nodding along, like he had any idea what real work looked like. The man had never held a job that didn't involve spending someone else's money. "The good news," Eric said, taking out his phone, "is that Victoria and I have been working with some investors. We're planning a restructuring that will save the company. Trim the useless parts, modernize the brand, and separate ourselves from the old leadership." "The old guard being me," I said. "Exactly." Victoria beamed like I was a slow student who'd finally understood. "And once we get the paperwork sorted, there's this legal thing about mental competency we need to handle. We'll be able to move forward without any complications." "Mental competency?" I said. "Well, at your age, with the stress of the company failing, the early signs of decline—" Lauren waved her hand vaguely. "It's actually really common. Nothing to be ashamed of." They were preparing to have me labeled mentally incompetent, to remove my legal authority, seize everything I'd created, and place me in a facility where I'd be so medicated and disoriented I couldn't resist. I looked at each of them in turn. My daughters, who I'd loved since before they were born, who I'd worked 80-hour weeks to provide for, who I'd sent to the best schools, given every opportunity, protected from every hardship I could shield them from. And this was what I'd raised. Rebecca's hand found mine again under the table. Her grip was iron. "Well," I said, setting down my napkin, "this has been enlightening." "Oh, don't be dramatic," Victoria said. We're doing this for your own good. Of course you are. I stood up. Rebecca stood with me. Dessert's in the kitchen, I said. Help yourselves. Merry Christmas. We left them there, already celebrating their victory, dividing up the spoils of the empire they thought they'd conquered. In the study, Rebecca closed the door and leaned against it. Now? She asked. Now, I agreed. She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. I picked up my phone and sent a single text message to Derek Moore, my company's lawyer, and a man who'd spent 15 years as a federal investigator before I'd hired him. Emergency board meeting. Tomorrow 8 a.m. Be ready. His response came back in seconds. About time. The corporate headquarters was a glass and steel tower in downtown Charlotte, 23 floors. I'd designed it myself back in 1992, when the company was still small enough that I knew every employee's name. Now we had 4,000 people on payroll across 3 states. Or rather, I had 4,000 people on payroll. The executive boardroom was on the top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the city. The sun was just rising when I arrived, turning the windows gold. Rebecca had offered to come, but this was business. She understood. Gary Holt was already there, setting up his laptop. My COO was 42, quiet, the kind of man people overlooked until they realized he'd been 3 steps ahead the whole time. He'd worked for me for 18 years, starting as a junior analyst fresh out of business school. Coffee's ready, he said, not looking up. Also pulled the reports you asked for. Everything's documented. Good. Derek arrived next, carrying 2 briefcases. He was 55, gray-haired, with the kind of calm expression that made guilty people nervous. He'd spent his federal career taking down corporate fraudsters. Poetic, really, that he was about to use those same skills on my daughters. They don't know you're coming, he said. It wasn't a question. They think they're coming to discuss my decline, I said. He smiled. This'll be fun. The board members filtered in over the next 20 minutes. 12 of them, all handpicked by me over the years. They knew the company inside and out. Most of them had built their careers here. Victoria and Lauren arrived at 7:55, Eric and Sean trailing behind them. My older daughter was in full power suit mode, red blazer and heels that clicked against the hardwood. Lauren had gone for softer manipulation today, cream-colored and concerned-looking. They stopped when they saw the full board assembled. "What is this?" Victoria demanded. "Board meeting," I said from my seat at the head of the table. "Please, sit down." "We weren't told about a board meeting," Eric said, but he was already calculating, eyes darting around the room, trying to figure out the play. "Sit down," I repeated. Not a request this time. They sat. The 4 of them clustered at the far end of the table, like defendants at a trial. Which, in a way, they were. "I'll make this brief," I said, opening the folder in front of me. "As of this morning, both Victoria Keller Huntley and Lauren Keller Wyatt are terminated from all positions within this company, effective immediately." Silence. The kind of silence that precedes an explosion. "You can't do that," Victoria said, but her voice was uncertain. "I can, actually." I slid the first document down the table toward her. "As the majority shareholder and acting CEO of this company, I have full authority to make personnel decisions." Lauren grabbed the paper, read it, went pale. "You're not the CEO," she said. "You retired 5 years ago." "No," I said calmly. I stepped back from daily operations. I remained CEO and majority shareholder. I own 62% of this company. You each own 7%, non-voting shares, I might add, held in trust until certain conditions are met. I pulled out the second document. This one was older, yellowed slightly at the edges, the original incorporation papers. "Andrew Keller, CEO and principal shareholder," I read. "Rebecca Keller, VP and secondary shareholder, 18%. All other shares distributed at the discretion of the primary shareholder." Victoria was on her feet. "This is impossible. We've been running this company. You've been playing at running this company," I interrupted, "while I've been watching you destroy everything I built. Gary, show them the reports." Gary stood, clicked his remote. The screen behind me lit up with spreadsheets. Numbers in red. Lots of red. "Over the past 5 years," Gary said in his quiet, methodical voice, "we've tracked approximately $4.7 million in unauthorized expenses charged to corporate accounts. Private jets to vacation destinations labeled as business trips. Designer wardrobes categorized as professional attire. A home renovation classified as remote office setup." Click, another slide. This one showed wire transfers. "We've also identified a pattern of payments to shell companies owned by Eric Huntley and Sean Wyatt. fake supplier invoices, consulting fees for services never rendered, equipment purchases that were never delivered. Sean was shaking his head frantically. That's not... You can't prove? We can prove everything, Derek said, speaking for the first time. He had a voice like gravel, worn smooth by years of interrogations. Every transaction documented, every fake invoice traced, every forged signature analyzed. He pulled out his own stack of papers, probably 6 inches thick. Corporate theft, embezzlement, fraud, forgery. If this was a criminal case, and it may become one, we'd be looking at 20 years minimum. But Mr. Keller has decided to handle this internally, for now. This is blackmail, Eric spat. No, I said. Blackmail is when you threaten to expose information unless someone pays you. I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you what's going to happen. You're fired. You're removed from all corporate accounts and assets, and you're going to sign documents relinquishing any claim to future ownership or inheritance related to this company. Victoria found her voice again. We'll sue. We'll fight this. You'll lose, I said simply. You have 7% non-voting shares. I have 62% and full operational control. You have no legal standing, no case, and no leverage. But please, try. Derek would love the billable hours. Lauren was crying now, mascara streaking. The soft, sweet act was gone, replaced by raw panic. Daddy, please, we didn't mean... Yesterday was just... Yesterday, I said. You laughed about putting me in a nursing home. You toasted to my failure. You planned to have me declared mentally incompetent so you could steal everything I built. Did you really think I wouldn't know? Did you think I wouldn't have people watching, documenting, recording? You're our father, Victoria said. Her voice was shaking now, the confidence cracking. Yes, I agreed. I'm your father, which is why I'm giving you a choice. Sign the papers, accept termination with a minimal severance, and walk away. Or fight this and watch Derek dismantle your lives piece by piece in court while the media has a field day with the story of the entitled daughters who tried to rob their own father. I stood up, buttoned my jacket. You have until 5 p.m. today to decide. Derek will be in his office. The papers are ready. I walked to the door, turned back. You thought I was done, that I was weak, that I was a failure you could discard when convenient. You were wrong. I was just waiting for you to expose yourselves. And you did. Beautifully. I left them there, Victoria's face red with rage, Lauren sobbing, the husbands calculating their next move. The board members sat silent, witnesses to the execution. In the elevator, Gary joined me. That was brutal, he said. That was necessary. What do you think they'll do? I pressed the button for the parking garage. They'll fight. Victoria's too arrogant to back down, and Lauren will follow her lead. They'll lawyer up, try to find an angle, look for some way to save face. And when they do, then we move to phase 2. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out into the concrete dimness of the parking level. Get ready, Gary. This is just the beginning. They didn't take the deal. I knew they wouldn't, but part of me, some small, stubborn part that still remembered Victoria learning to ride a bike and Lauren's first day of kindergarten, had hoped they'd see reason, that they'd understand the game was over and walk away with some dignity intact. Instead, they went nuclear. By noon, my phone was ringing with calls from reporters. Someone had leaked a story about the family drama at Keller Industries. The narrative was predictable. Aging founder loses grip, turns on his own children in paranoid rage, company in chaos. Victoria's PR team was good. I'd give her that. By 2 p.m., she was on the local news, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, talking about her concern for her father's mental state. We've been worried for months, she said, voice trembling just right. He's become paranoid, accusatory. He sees conspiracies everywhere. We just want him to get help. Rebecca watched the interview from the living room couch, a glass of wine in her hand. She didn't say anything, just raised an eyebrow at the screen. She's good, I admitted. She's desperate, Rebecca corrected, which makes her dangerous. My phone buzzed. Text from Derek. They filed petition, mental competency hearing, 3 weeks. I showed Rebecca the message. She read it, sipped her wine, smiled. Perfect, she said. Perfect? They're using the exact strategy we built the defense for. Every move they make, we've already planned 5 moves ahead. She set down her glass. Andrew, you spent 5 years preparing for this. You documented everything, built the legal fortress, positioned your people. They're walking into a trap they can't even see yet. She was right, of course. She was always right. 5 years ago, when I'd retired, I hadn't really retired at all. I'd stepped back, yes, let them think they were in charge. But I'd kept control, kept watching, kept documenting. Every questionable expense, every shady deal, every moment of hubris and greed, I'd recorded it all, and I'd prepared for this exact scenario. They'll try to freeze company assets, I said, claim I'm unfit to make financial decisions. They'll fail, Rebecca said confidently. Derek's already filed the counter-motion, and tomorrow morning the auditors arrive. The auditors. I'd hired them 6 months ago, when it became clear that Eric and Sean were running some kind of scheme through fake supplier companies, big firm, forensic accountants, the kind who testified in federal fraud cases. They'd been quietly building a case, documenting everything, preparing for the moment when we'd need to show exactly how much my daughters and their husbands had stolen. That moment was now. How much? Rebecca asked, reading my mind. Best estimate? About $7 million. Total, maybe more. She whistled softly. That's ambitious. They thought I wouldn't notice, or wouldn't care, or was too senile to understand spreadsheets anymore. Their mistake. My phone rang. Gary. They're trying to lock you out of the system, he said without preamble. Changed passwords on the executive accounts, froze your access to the financial databases. And they don't know about the secondary admin protocols, or the fact that I have root access to everything. Want me to lock them out instead? Not yet, I said. Let them think it worked. Let them feel secure. The audit starts tomorrow. I want them confident and careless. You're enjoying this, Gary said. I'm not enjoying anything. I'm finishing it. I hung up. Rebecca was watching me with that look she got sometimes, the one that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with her 40 years ago. Sharp intelligence and steel backbone wrapped in elegant packages. They're going to try something tonight, she said. Some kind of power play. It's what Victoria does when she's cornered. She escalates. I know. Be ready. I was ready. I'd been ready for 5 years. The call came at 8 p.m. Lauren, not Victoria. Smart play. Send the sweet daughter, the one who could cry on command. Daddy? Her voice was small, hurt. Can we talk? Just you and me? Is this being recorded? I asked. Silence. Then, no, I promise. I want to understand. Why are you doing this to us? You know why. The expenses? Daddy, those were legitimate business costs. We can explain everything. Lauren, stop. I've seen the invoices. I know about the shell companies Sean set up. I know about the fake suppliers, the phantom consulting fees, the equipment orders that never existed. I know everything. More silence. When she spoke again, the sweetness was gone. You're really going to destroy your own daughters over some money? This isn't about money. This is about respect, about honesty, about the fact that you planned to have me declared incompetent and locked away so you could steal my life's work. I was there, Lauren, at Christmas dinner. I heard every word, every laugh, every joke about plastic cups and discount diapers. We didn't mean it. We were just showing me exactly who you've become, and now I'm responding accordingly. I heard her breathing on the other end, sharp, angry breaths. You're going to regret this, she said, and now the mask was completely off. We have lawyers. We have evidence of your declining mental state. We have doctors who'll testify that you're paranoid, delusional. We're going to prove you're unfit, and then we're going to take everything. Try. We will. And when we do, when you're sitting in some state facility wondering what happened, remember, you did this to yourself. She hung up. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. That went well. They're committed now. No backing down. Good, she said. Neither are we. The next morning, the auditors arrived at company headquarters at 7 a.m. sharp. 3 of them, led by a woman named Patricia Chen, who'd built her reputation destroying corrupt executives. They had badges, subpoenas, and legal authority to access any record, any account, any file in the company. Victoria tried to stop them at the door. You can't just walk in here without... We have a court order, Patricia said calmly, showing the paperwork. Signed by a federal judge. We're conducting a financial audit of Keller Industries. You can cooperate or you can be held in contempt. Your choice. I watched it happen on the security cameras from Gary's office. Victoria's face went through several expressions: shock, rage, calculation, fear, before settling on fake confidence. Fine, she said. Audit whatever you want. You won't find anything. We'll see, Patricia said, and walked past her. Over the next 6 hours, they tore through the financial records like surgeons. Every expense report, every wire transfer, every invoice and receipt and payment authorization for the past 5 years. Gary and I watched on the monitors, drinking coffee, saying little. At 2 p.m., Patricia emerged from the records room and asked to speak with me privately. We met in my office, my real office, the one I'd kept locked for 5 years, the one nobody except Gary and Rebecca knew existed. It was on the 19th floor, a modest space with a desk, computer, filing cabinets. This was where I'd done the real work, the monitoring, the documentation. "Mr. Keller," Patricia said, opening her laptop. "I need to confirm something before I submit my initial findings." "Go ahead." She turned the screen toward me. Spreadsheets, charts, a network of transactions and transfers that looked like something from an organized crime case file. "This is approximately $7.2 million in fraudulent expenses and embezzled funds. It's been ongoing for 4 years, escalating in the past 18 months. The primary parties involved appear to be Victoria Keller Huntley, Eric Huntley, Lauren Keller Wyatt, and Sean Wyatt. The scheme involved fake supplier companies, inflated invoices, personal expenses charged to corporate accounts, and unauthorized wire transfers." She looked up at me. "You knew about this?" I suspected. Then I confirmed. "Why didn't you report it?" "Because I needed to be sure, and I needed them to commit fully. You can't prosecute suspicion. You need evidence, documentation, a clear pattern of behavior. Now we have that. You let them steal for 4 years just to build a case?" "I let them expose themselves," I corrected, "and now we finish it." She nodded slowly. "My report will be ready tomorrow morning. With this level of fraud, you'd be justified in pressing criminal charges." "One step at a time," I said. "First, we deal with their attempt to have me declared incompetent. Then we decide what comes next." She closed her laptop. "For what it's worth, Mr. Keller, you're the most mentally sharp executive I've worked with in 20 years. Anyone who thinks you're declining hasn't been paying attention." After she left, I sat alone in my office for a while, looking out the window at the city I'd built my empire in. Somewhere out there, my daughters were planning their next move, gathering their forces, preparing for war. They had no idea the war was already over. The competency hearing was scheduled for Thursday morning at the county courthouse. Victoria's lawyers had moved fast, pulling strings to get it expedited. They wanted me evaluated, declared unfit, and removed from power before I could do any more damage to their plans. What they didn't know was that every move they made was being documented, analyzed, and turned into ammunition. Derek spent the week before the hearing in full battle mode. He assembled a team of 4 associates, all specialists in corporate law, elder law, and fraud prosecution. They worked 18-hour days, building a case so airtight that a jury could understand it in 5 minutes. "They're bringing a psychiatrist," Derek told me Tuesday evening. We were in his office, surrounded by stacks of documents and empty coffee cups. "Dr. Martin Reeves. He's testified in about 40 competency cases over the past 10 years. "For the plaintiff or defendant?" "Almost always plaintiff. He's basically a hired gun. You pay him enough, he'll say whatever you need him to say." "Can we challenge him?" "Already did. I've pulled transcripts from 3 of his previous cases. In 2 of them, his testimony was later contradicted by independent evaluations. In one, the judge explicitly called his methods questionable. We can shred his credibility in cross-examination." "What's our counter?" "Dr. Ellen Rostoff. Yale Medical School, 25 years of psychiatric practice, author of 2 textbooks on cognitive assessment. She's evaluated you 3 times over the past 6 months. Every test shows you're cognitively intact, emotionally stable, and functioning at a high level. And she'll testify? She's looking forward to it. Apparently she's seen too many cases where families try to declare elderly relatives incompetent for financial gain. She's taking this personally." I smiled. "Good." Wednesday night, Rebecca and I sat in the study. She was reading through the audit report for the 3rd time, making notes in the margins. "They stole more than we thought," she said. "Patricia's team found another $2 million in hidden transactions. Sean was smarter than he looked." "Not smart enough?" "No," she agreed, "but smart enough to make this messy. Some of these transfers went through 3 shell companies before ending up in his accounts. If we press charges, the prosecution's going to take months unwinding it all." "We're not pressing charges," I said. "Not yet." She looked up. "Why not?" "Because I want them to understand something first. I want them to know that I'm choosing mercy, that I could destroy them completely, could have them prosecuted and imprisoned, but I'm offering them a way out. And then, when they refuse that mercy, when they keep fighting and keep lying and keep trying to take everything, then we finish it. You're giving them rope to hang themselves with. I'm giving them a choice. What they do with it is up to them." Thursday morning came cold and gray, threatening rain. The courthouse was downtown, a granite building that had stood since 1897. We arrived 30 minutes early, Derek carrying 2 briefcases and a litigation bag that looked like it could sink a ship. Victoria and Lauren were already there, flanked by their lawyers. 3 attorneys between them, all from some white shoe firm that charged $1,000 an hour. Eric and Sean stood behind them, trying to look supportive and concerned. Victoria saw me and her expression hardened. Lauren looked away. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, with harsh fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly sick. Judge Catherine Brennan presided, 60-something, stern, with a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. I'd done my research on her, too. She'd thrown out 6 frivolous competency petitions in the past year alone. Victoria's lead attorney was a man named Richard Blackwood, silver-haired and confident. He stood when the judge entered, straightened his tie, and launched into his opening statement with the smooth delivery of someone who'd done this 100 times. Your Honor, we're here today because a family is concerned about their father. Andrew Keller, age 61, has exhibited increasingly erratic behavior over the past several months. He's become paranoid, accusatory, making wild claims about theft and fraud without evidence. He's fired his own daughters from family business without cause. He's alienated family members, friends, colleagues. He gestured toward Victoria and Lauren, who'd both perfected expressions of worried sadness. This is a man who needs help, Your Honor. Medical help, psychiatric evaluation. His daughters aren't here to take anything from him. They're here to protect him from himself. He sat down, satisfied. Judge Brennan looked at Derek. Mr. Moore? Derek stood. He didn't approach the bench, didn't pace, didn't gesture. He just stood there, calm and solid as a boulder, and spoke. Your Honor, this is a shakedown. These women aren't concerned about their father. They're concerned about their bank accounts. Over the past 5 years, they've stolen more than $7 million from his company. When he discovered this and terminated their employment, they filed this petition to have him declared incompetent. It's retaliation, pure and simple. Victoria's lawyer jumped up. That's inflammatory and unsubstantiated. I have a 200-page forensic audit that substantiates every word, Derek said calmly. He pulled a thick document from his briefcase and handed it to the bailiff. This is documentation of systematic fraud and embezzlement. If Your Honor would like, I can have the lead auditor available for testimony within an hour. Judge Brennan took the document, flipped through a few pages. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room. We'll hear testimony, she said. Mr. Blackwood, present your evidence. Dr. Martin Reeves was their star witness. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of practiced confidence that came from years of courtroom testimony. He took the stand and described the evaluation he'd conducted, which consisted of a 45-minute phone call where he'd asked me a series of standard questions. Mr. Keller exhibited several concerning signs, he said. Paranoid ideation, anger toward family members, rigid thinking, difficulty accepting alternate perspectives. In my professional opinion, he shows clear signs of cognitive decline and should undergo full psychiatric evaluation before being allowed to make major life decisions. Blackwood nodded along, looking satisfied. Then Derek stood for cross-examination. Dr. Reeves, you evaluated Mr. Keller via phone call, correct? Yes, for 45 minutes. That's correct. And in that 45 minutes, you determined he was mentally incompetent? I determined he should undergo further evaluation, yes. Based on what specific symptoms? As I said, paranoid ideation, anger. What specific questions did you ask that revealed these symptoms? Reeves shifted slightly. Standard cognitive assessment questions, memory tests, reasoning exercises. Could you describe one? I asked him to remember a series of words and repeat them back. And he completed the task successfully, but his demeanor, so his memory is fine. His short-term recall, yes, but what other tests did you perform? I evaluated his reasoning through hypothetical scenarios, which he answered correctly. Some of them, all of them, according to your own notes. Derek pulled out a paper. I have the transcript of your call. Every cognitive test you administered, Mr. Keller passed. Every memory exercise, every reasoning question, every assessment of judgment, he scored within normal ranges for his age. The only concerning symptoms you noted were his anger at his daughters and his belief that they'd stolen from him. Paranoid accusations. Except they're not paranoid if they're true, are they? You didn't investigate whether theft had actually occurred. You didn't request financial records. You didn't speak to anyone at the company. You took his daughter's word that their father was incompetent, collected your fee, and wrote your report. Blackwood objected. The judge overruled. Dr. Reeves, Derek continued, you've testified in 43 competency hearings in the past 10 years. In 38 of those cases, you've recommended the defendant undergo further evaluation or be declared incompetent. Is that accurate? I evaluate each case individually. Yes or no? The numbers are approximately correct. Yes. And you're paid by the plaintiff in each case. I'm paid for my professional services. By the people who want the defendant declared incompetent, and 90% of the time, you give them what they want. Reeves flushed. My professional integrity has been questioned by at least 3 judges in previous cases. Derek pulled out more papers. I have transcripts. Would you like me to read them? The judge intervened. That won't be necessary. Mr. Moore, do you have your own expert? I do, Your Honor. Dr. Ellen Rostov was everything Reeves wasn't. Measured, thoughtful, thorough. She described the 3 separate evaluations she'd conducted over 6 months. Full cognitive batteries, emotional assessments, interviews, observation. She'd tested memory, reasoning, judgment, emotional stability. Mr. Keller is cognitively intact, she said firmly. His memory is excellent for his age. His reasoning is sharp. His judgment is sound. He's certainly angry at his daughters, but that anger appears to be justified based on the evidence of financial misconduct. Being angry at someone who steals from you isn't a symptom of incompetence. It's a normal emotional response. So, in your professional opinion, Derek asked, Andrew Keller is mentally competent. He's capable of managing his affairs, making informed decisions, and running his business. Anyone who suggests otherwise either hasn't evaluated him properly or has an ulterior motive. She looked directly at Reeves when she said it. After her testimony, the judge called a recess. We gathered in a conference room down the hall, me, Rebecca, Derek, and his team. That went well, one of the associates said. It's not over, Derek warned. They'll try something else. He was right. When we reconvened, Blackwood stood and addressed the judge. Your Honor, given the conflicting testimony, we'd like to request a full independent evaluation. Denied, Judge Brennan said. I've heard enough. Dr. Rostov conducted thorough, documented evaluations over months. Dr. Reeves conducted 1 phone call. The forensic audit Mr. Moore provided shows clear financial misconduct. The petition is denied. Mr. Keller is competent. Case dismissed. She banged her gavel. Victoria stood up, her face red. This is ridiculous. He's stealing from us. He's... Ms. Huntley, the judge said coldly. I suggest you sit down before I hold you in contempt. And based on this audit, I suggest you speak with your attorneys about potential criminal liability. We left the courthouse into the gray morning. The rain had started, light and cold. Behind us, I could hear Victoria arguing with her lawyers, Lauren crying, the husbands calculating their next move. Rebecca took my arm. Round 1 to us. Round 1, I agreed. But the fight's not over. It was just beginning. The story broke Friday morning on every major outlet. Family feud turns ugly at Keller Industries. Victoria gave interviews, controlled and composed, talking about her father's concerning behavior and how the family was exploring all options to protect him. By noon, reporters were camped outside company headquarters. By evening, they'd found my home address. Rebecca watched the coverage with clinical detachment. They're trying to turn public opinion, make you look unstable. Will it work? Depends on who controls the narrative. By Monday morning, I had 3 board members calling, asking for an emergency meeting. The stock had dropped 3 points. Shareholders were nervous. They wanted a quiet settlement. No settlement, I said in the boardroom. No compromise. They tried to have me declared incompetent. They went to the media to destroy my reputation. You want me to reward that? Gary spoke up. The audit is airtight. If this goes public, we have the truth on our side. I stood up. We're releasing a statement this afternoon. Former employees terminated for cause following financial audit. Simple, factual, boring. The statement went out at 3 p.m. That night, I got a call from a 60 Minutes producer. They wanted to do a story, let me present the facts. Rebecca listened. They've controlled the narrative so far. Maybe it's time you told the truth on your terms. Set it up, I said. Tuesday morning, Victoria and Lauren held their own press conference. Our father is being manipulated, Victoria said. We're calling for an independent investigation. That afternoon, we released the full audit publicly. $7 million in fraudulent expenses, shell companies, fake invoices, all documented. The media narrative shifted in 45 minutes. Thursday, I did the 60 Minutes interview. Calm, factual, showing the evidence. When the interviewer asked if I still loved my daughters, I paused. I love who they used to be, but the people who laughed about putting me in a nursing home, who tried to have me declared incompetent, I don't know those people, and I don't owe them anything. The segment would air Sunday. Between now and then, we waited for their next move. Friday afternoon, they filed a massive civil lawsuit, not just against me, against the company, Derek, Gary, the auditing firm. They claimed fraud, defamation, conspiracy, elder abuse. Derek called. They're going scorched earth. Then we burn faster and hotter, I said. Sunday night, Lauren showed up at the house alone, crying, vulnerable, claiming she wanted to apologize. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it. I just want my dad back. Then drop the lawsuit. Admit what you did. I can't. Victoria would make your own decisions, Lauren. She stared at me, and for a second the mask slipped. Calculation, frustration, anger. Then it was back. The tears, the vulnerability. Fine, I tried. She left. I'd recorded the whole thing. The 60 Minutes segment aired that night. I looked rational, justified. They looked entitled, desperate. Monday brought another press conference from Eric. More lies, more spin. But the business press had seen the evidence. Public opinion was shifting. We filed criminal complaints with the district attorney's office. Complete case package, the audit, documentation, bank records, everything. The DA was interested. Very interested. By afternoon, news of the criminal referral had leaked. Victoria's next press appearance showed the cracks. She looked tired, stressed, losing control. At home, Rebecca said, I'm worried about you. You're at war with your daughters. What happens when you win? We'll figure it out, I said. But I didn't have an answer. The indictments came down on a Monday morning in late October, 4 counts each for Victoria and Lauren: embezzlement, wire fraud, conspiracy, and filing false documents. Eric and Sean got 6 counts each. They'd been more aggressive in setting up the shell companies and fake invoices. The news broke before they were even arrested. I was in my office when Gary called. It's happening, he said. Federal marshals are executing the warrants now. I turned on the television. Every local channel had breaking news coverage. Cameras outside Victoria's house in the wealthy suburb where she'd bought a mansion with stolen money. Reporters speculating about the charges, the evidence, what it meant for the family empire. By noon, every major outlet had picked up the story. National coverage. Business networks doing deep dives into the company, the family, the scandal. They were arraigned that afternoon. I wasn't there, but Derek was. He called me from the courthouse steps. They pleaded not guilty, made bail, took everything they had left, but they made it. Victoria gave a statement claiming this is all a setup, a conspiracy, a vindictive father destroying his family. Anyone believe her? The reporters looked skeptical. She's lost that polished confidence she used to have. She looked rattled, defensive. Her lawyer kept trying to cut her off, but she wouldn't stop talking. What did she say? That you've manufactured evidence, that the audit is fraudulent, that you've paid off witnesses and prosecutors, that this is elder abuse in reverse, a powerful old man using the system to punish daughters who dared question his authority. Creative, I said. Desperate, Derek corrected. When you start accusing federal prosecutors of corruption, you've lost the plot. The judge looked annoyed. I think she hurt herself more than helped. Good. Andrew, their lawyers are going to come back with settlement offers. Better ones this time. They're facing real prison time now. Federal charges, federal sentencing guidelines. If convicted on all counts, they're looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. And I think you should consider it. Not because you owe them anything, but because a trial means months of testimony, cross-examination, media coverage. Your whole life exposed, Rebecca's life exposed. Every business decision you've made for 30 years, questioned and analyzed. It'll be brutal. I don't care. You say that now. Wait until you're on the stand for 8 hours getting grilled by defense attorneys trying to make you look like a vindictive tyrant who drove his innocent daughters to desperation. Let them try. I have the truth on my side. He sighed. Okay. But think about what Rebecca said. Think about Endgame. Think about what you want your legacy to be. I did think about it. That night, lying awake at 3 a.m. while Rebecca slept beside me, I thought about what victory would actually look like. My daughters in prison, my family name forever associated with this scandal, years of legal battles and media coverage and public dissection of private pain. But then I remembered Christmas dinner, the laughter, the jokes about nursing homes and plastic cups, the casual cruelty of children who thought their father was weak and useless and disposable. And I knew I couldn't stop. Not yet. Not until they understood fully what they'd done. The next morning, Victoria's legal team released a statement. They were requesting a change of venue, claiming that media coverage had made a fair trial impossible in Charlotte. They wanted the case moved to another district, somewhere the Keller name didn't carry as much weight. The motion was denied within 48 hours. The judge noted that the defense had contributed significantly to the media coverage through their own press conferences and statements. Wednesday morning, Lauren's lawyer called Derek. They wanted to meet. Off the record, no recording, just a conversation about possibilities. "She's breaking," Derek told me. "Lauren always was the weaker one. Victoria can sustain the fight because she genuinely believes she's right. Lauren knows she's guilty, and the weight of that is crushing her." "Set up the meeting," I said. The meeting was at a neutral location, a conference room in a downtown hotel, sterile and corporate. Lauren came with her lawyer, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Morris, sharp-looking, expensive, probably billing $400 an hour. I came with Derek. Rebecca had wanted to come, but I'd asked her to stay home. This was between me and my daughter, whatever was left of that relationship. Lauren looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes like bruises, hair pulled back carelessly in a ponytail. None of the polished influencer image she usually projected. She wore jeans and a plain sweater, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked young and scared and broken. We sat across from each other at the conference table. For a long moment, nobody spoke. "Thank you for meeting," Patricia finally said. Her voice was professional, controlled. "My client wants to discuss a resolution that might work for everyone involved." "I'm listening," I said. Lauren leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. "I want to take a deal, separate from Victoria. She's planning to fight this all the way to trial, planning to try to destroy you on the stand, planning to drag this out for years. But I don't want that. I just want it to be over." "What are you offering?" "I'll plead guilty to one count of conspiracy. Just one count. I'll testify against Victoria, against Eric, against Sean. I'll tell them everything I know about how the scheme worked, who did what, who came up with which ideas. And I'll give back everything I took. I'll sell my house, my cars, whatever it takes to make restitution, and then I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again." "In exchange for what?" "Probation. No prison time, maybe community service, definitely supervised release, but no actual incarceration. And you drop all the civil suits against me personally." I looked at Derek. He gave a slight nod. It was a reasonable offer, legally speaking. "Why should I believe you?" I asked Lauren. "You've lied to me for years. You stood by while Victoria orchestrated this whole thing. You laughed at that Christmas dinner. Why should I trust anything you say now?" Her eyes filled with tears. Real tears this time, I thought. Not the manipulative crying she'd done before. "Because I'm cornered," she said, voice breaking. "Because I'm facing 20 years in federal prison. Because I have no money. Everything's frozen. Everything's tied up in litigation. Because Sean left me. He filed for separation last week, trying to distance himself from the charges. Because I have nothing left except the truth." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I stole from you. I knew it was wrong. Victoria convinced me that you wouldn't notice, that you'd never check the accounts, that we deserved it because we'd worked so hard for the company. But deep down, I knew, and I did it anyway, and I'm sorry." It was the first genuine apology I'd heard from either of them since this whole thing started. "If I agree to this," I said slowly, "you testify against Victoria. Full cooperation. Everything you know about the scheme, the shell companies, who did what and when." "Yes." "And you allocute? You stand up in court and admit what you did in detail on the record. No weasel words, no mistakes were made. You say, 'I stole, and I committed fraud, and I am guilty.'" "Yes." "And you never contact me again. No letters, no calls, no attempts at reconciliation down the road. You walk away from this family and you stay away, forever." She hesitated at that, looked at her lawyer, who gave her a small nod. "Forever?" Lauren's voice was small. "Forever. You made your choices. You chose money over integrity, Victoria over family, lies over truth. Those choices have consequences. One of those consequences is that you don't get to be my daughter anymore." The tears were flowing freely now. "Daddy, please!" "Don't call me that. You lost that right." She flinched like I'd struck her. "But," I continued, "I'll agree to the deal. One count, probation, restitution, testimony. You give the prosecutors everything they need to convict Victoria and the others, and you get to stay out of prison. That's more mercy than you showed me." I looked at Patricia. "Put it in writing. Full cooperation agreement with the DA's office. I want it signed by Friday." "We can do that," Patricia said. I stood up. Lauren started to say something, but I held up my hand. Don't apologize again. Don't try to explain. Don't ask for forgiveness. Just sign the papers, tell the truth in court, and disappear. That's all I want from you now." I walked out. Derek followed. In the parking garage, he said, That was harsh. That was honest. She's still your daughter. No, I said. She's a criminal who happens to share my DNA. There's a difference. He didn't argue. We drove back to the office in silence. That evening I told Rebecca about the meeting. How do you feel? She asked. Empty. That's normal. You're watching your family disintegrate. They disintegrated it. I'm just refusing to pretend it's still whole. She took my hand. I know, but it's still a loss. You're allowed to grieve it. I don't want to grieve. I want to finish this. You can do both. Maybe she was right, but I didn't have space for grief yet. Not while Victoria was still out there, still fighting, still refusing to accept responsibility. Friday afternoon, Lauren's plea agreement was finalized. She'd appear in court the following week to formally enter her guilty plea. That same day, Eric's lawyer reached out to Derek. He wanted to discuss a similar arrangement. Eric's terrified, Derek said. His whole identity is built on being successful, being connected, being part of the wealthy elite. The idea of going to federal prison is destroying him. What's he offering? Everything. Testimony against Victoria, full details on the shell companies he set up, access to all his financial records. He'll plead to 2 counts in exchange for a recommendation of probation. Take it, I said. The more of them who flip, the more isolated Victoria becomes. You want her alone. I want her to understand what happens when you burn every bridge, when you use people and expect loyalty, when you think the rules don't apply to you. Eric's deal was negotiated over the weekend. By Monday, he'd signed the agreement. That left Victoria and Sean, partners in the original crime, now watching their co-conspirators abandon ship one by one. Tuesday morning, Victoria gave another press conference. This one was different, angrier, less controlled. My sister has been coerced into lying, she said, voice shaking with rage. The prosecutors threatened her with decades in prison unless she turned against me. Eric has been similarly manipulated. This isn't justice. This is a witch hunt orchestrated by my father and enabled by a corrupt legal system. A reporter asked, if you're innocent, why are your co-defendants pleading guilty? Because they're weak, because they'd rather lie and stay out of prison than fight for the truth. But I'm not weak. I'm not going to let my father destroy me without a fight. What about the forensic audit showing $7 million in fraudulent expenses? That audit is based on fabricated evidence. My father hired the auditors, paid them to produce the results he wanted. Of course, they found what he told them to find. Are you saying the federal prosecutors are part of this conspiracy? She hesitated, realized she'd painted herself into a corner. I'm saying that my father has influence, has connections, and has used them to bias the system against me. It was desperate. Everyone watching could see it. That afternoon, Sean's lawyer called Derek with yet another plea offer. No, I said before Derek could even explain the terms. You don't want to hear it? I don't care what he's offering. Victoria's the architect. She planned this, she recruited the others, she convinced Lauren to go along. I want her to stand trial. I want a jury to hear everything she did. Sean can take his chances with her. You're using him as collateral damage. I'm holding him accountable for his choices. He chose to marry my daughter, chose to help her steal, chose to set up fake companies and forge invoices. He made those choices. Now he lives with them. Derek nodded slowly. Okay, I'll tell them no deal. And make sure Victoria knows we rejected it. Make sure she knows Sean tried to flip and we wouldn't let him. You want to drive a wedge between them? I want her to feel as alone as I felt at that Christmas dinner. Sean's deal was rejected. His lawyer tried to negotiate directly with the DA's office, but I'd built relationships there over the past months. The message was clear, no deals for Sean without Victoria included. 2 weeks before trial, Victoria made one last desperate move. She showed up at company headquarters with a camera crew, claiming she was there to collect personal belongings from her old office. Security called Gary immediately. He came down to the lobby with me right behind him. Victoria was there with 2 cameramen, a reporter, and her lawyer. She was dressed professionally again, trying to project confidence, but I could see the cracks. I'm here to retrieve my personal property, she announced loudly, playing to the cameras. Items that belong to me that my father has illegally confiscated. You're trespassing, Gary said calmly. You no longer work here. You have no personal property on the premises. Everything in your former office belonged to the company. That's not true. I had photos, personal files, items of sentimental value, which were inventoried and are available through proper legal channels, but you can't just walk in here with a camera crew and help yourself. This is my father's company. I have a right to be here. I stepped forward. The cameras swung toward me. No, I said quietly. You have no rights here. You were terminated for cause 6 months ago. You're facing federal criminal charges for stealing from this company. You're not an employee, not a shareholder of record, not a board member. You're not anything here. You're just a criminal trespassing on private property." She stared at me, and for a moment I saw it finally break. The last remnants of her confidence, her certainty that she'd somehow win this, that she'd find an angle or a loophole or a way to turn it all around. "You're destroying your own family," she said. Her voice was different now, smaller. "You're sending your daughters to prison. What kind of father does that?" A father who taught his daughters about consequences. A father who tried to raise honest, ethical people. A father who failed. I paused. But I'm not going to compound that failure by pretending theft is acceptable when family does it. "I never stole anything. The expenses were legitimate." "Stop. Just stop. The jury's going to hear all the evidence. They'll decide. But right now, you need to leave this building before I have you arrested for trespassing." Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. "Victoria, we should go." "No. I won't be driven out of my own." "It's not yours," I interrupted. "It never was. You never earned it. Never built it. Never did anything except take from it. And now you need to leave." Security had moved in, forming a loose circle around her group. Not threatening, but present. Ready. Victoria looked around, at the guards, at Gary, at me, at the cameras that were supposed to help her but were instead documenting her humiliation. "You're going to regret this," she said, but her voice was hollow. The threat had no weight behind it anymore. "No," I said. "I'm really not. The only thing I regret is not stopping you sooner." She left. Her lawyer guided her out, the camera crew trailing behind, the reporter asking questions she didn't answer. I stood in the lobby and watched her go, watched my daughter, the little girl who used to sit on my lap and ask me to read stories, who used to beg me to push her higher on the swings, who used to look at me like I could solve any problem, walk out of my life forever. Gary stood beside me. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." "I will be, once this is over." The media coverage of the incident was exactly what I'd expected. The footage showed Victoria looking desperate and unhinged, showed her being escorted out by security, showed her claims of persecution falling flat. Public opinion, which had been wavering, solidified. She'd tried to play victim, but the optics were all wrong. She looked like exactly what she was, a guilty person running out of options. The trial date was set, 3 weeks away. The prosecution had their witnesses lined up. Lauren, Eric, Patricia Chen, bank executives, company employees. They had documents, recordings, financial records. It was going to be a massacre. But Victoria still refused to settle, still insisted she'd be vindicated in court, still believed somehow that she could talk her way out of this. I almost admired the delusion. Almost. Lauren's plea deal was finalized Friday. She stood in court, read her allocution, admitted to conspiracy and embezzlement. The judge gave her 3 years probation and ordered restitution. Victoria's response was immediate. A press conference where she called Lauren a traitor, claimed she'd been coerced, threatened to expose the truth. But the damage was done. He saw one daughter had admitted guilt. The other looked increasingly desperate. Over the next month, the prosecution built their case. Lauren testified before the grand jury. Patricia Chen walked them through the financial evidence. Bank records, shell companies, fake invoices, everything documented. Victoria's lawyers tried every tactic. Motions to dismiss, claims of prosecutorial misconduct, attempts to exclude evidence. Nothing worked. Trial was set for September. In July, Eric tried to cut his own deal. His lawyer called Derek, offered testimony against Victoria in exchange for reduced charges. "What do you think?" Derek asked me. "Take it. Let them all turn on each other. Let Victoria see what loyalty gets you." Eric's deal went through. 5 years probation, full restitution, permanent ban from corporate positions. That left Victoria and Sean, partners in crime, facing 20 years each, watching their co-conspirators abandon ship. August, Sean's lawyer called. Same offer. Testimony for leniency. "No," I said. "What?" Derek looked surprised. "Victoria's the architect. She planned this, recruited them, convinced Lauren to go along. I want her to stand trial. I want a jury to hear everything she did. Sean can take his chances with her." Derek smiled. "You want her isolated." "I want her to understand what it feels like when everyone abandons you." Sean's deal was rejected. His lawyer tried to negotiate directly with the DA, but I had influence there too. The message was clear: no deals for Sean. 2 weeks before trial, Victoria tried one last move. She showed up at company headquarters with a camera crew, claimed she was there to collect personal belongings, tried to create a scene for the media. Security stopped her at the door. "You're trespassing. Gary said calmly. "Leave now, or we'll have you arrested." "This is my father's company. I have a right—" "You have no rights here. You were terminated for cause. You're facing criminal charges. You're not an employee, not a shareholder, not anything. You're just a criminal trespassing on private property." She stared at him, at me standing behind him, and I saw it finally break. The last of her confidence, her certainty that she'd somehow win this. "You're going to regret this," she said, but her voice was hollow. "No," I said. "I'm really not." She left. The media got their footage, but not the story she wanted. She looked desperate, defeated, pathetic. The trial started on a Tuesday in September. Federal courthouse, packed gallery, cameras outside. Victoria and Sean sat at the defense table, their lawyers flanking them. I sat in the gallery with Rebecca. Derek was there as a witness, along with Gary and Patricia Chen. The prosecution's opening statement was devastating. They laid out the entire scheme: shell companies, fake invoices, $7 million stolen over 4 years. They had documents, bank records, testimony from Lauren and Eric. Victoria's lawyer tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. Business expenses that were legitimate, a father's vendetta against daughters who questioned his competence. It didn't land. The jury looked skeptical. Over 3 weeks, the prosecution built their case brick by brick. Patricia Chen testified for 2 days, walking through every fraudulent transaction. Lauren testified, describing how Victoria had recruited her, convinced her their father would never notice. Eric testified about the shell companies he'd set up at Victoria's direction. Bank executives testified about suspicious transfers. Employees testified about fake supplier invoices. When it was the defense's turn, Victoria took the stand. She was polished, confident, tried to portray herself as a devoted daughter concerned about her father's decline. Then the prosecutor cross-examined her. "Ms. Huntley, you testified that these expenses were legitimate business costs. Can you explain why a business trip to Cabo included spa treatments and parasailing?" "Those were team-building activities." "For a team of 2? You and your husband?" "We were discussing strategy." "On a parasail?" The jury laughed. Victoria flushed. "Ms. Huntley, you claim your father is mentally incompetent, but he was declared competent by a judge after full evaluation. Are you saying the judge was wrong?" "The evaluation was inadequate." "Unlike the 45-minute phone call your expert conducted?" It went on like that for hours. Every lie exposed, every excuse demolished, every attempt at sympathy met with evidence of calculated theft. When it was over, Victoria looked exhausted, defeated, nothing like the confident woman who'd walked in. Sean didn't testify. His lawyer knew better. Closing arguments were quick. The prosecution summarized the evidence: overwhelming, comprehensive, undeniable. The defense tried to create doubt, failed. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victoria's face went white. Sean put his head in his hands. Sentencing was set for 6 weeks later. November brought sentencing day. Cold morning, gray sky, same courthouse. Victoria and Sean stood before the judge. The prosecutor recommended 12 years for Victoria, 10 for Sean. The defense pleaded for leniency, probation, anything but prison. The judge looked at Victoria. "Miss Huntley, you systematically stole from your own father's company. When confronted, you tried to have him declared incompetent. When that failed, you mounted a media campaign to destroy his reputation. You showed no remorse, no recognition of wrongdoing until you were caught and convicted. I see no reason for leniency. 12 years in federal prison, full restitution of $7.2 million, permanent ban from corporate positions." Victoria's legs buckled. Her lawyer caught her. Sean got 10 years. They were led away in handcuffs. Victoria looked back once, saw me sitting in the gallery, and her expression was pure hatred. I felt nothing. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave a brief statement. "Justice has been served. My daughters and their husbands committed serious crimes and will face appropriate consequences. I take no pleasure in this outcome, but I have no regrets about pursuing it. Actions have consequences." That was all. At home, Rebecca poured wine. We sat in the study, quiet. "It's over," she said. "It's over," I agreed. "How do you feel?" "Tired." "That's not what I asked." I thought about it. "I feel satisfied. Not happy, not vindicated. Just finished." "Good," she said, "because now we can focus on the future instead of the past." "What future?" "Whatever we want. Travel, retirement, actually enjoying the company you built instead of defending it." I smiled. "That sounds nice." "It does, doesn't it?" We sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire. thinking about tomorrow instead of yesterday. The final board meeting was in December. I'd called it to address the company's future now that the legal battles were over. Over the past year, I told the assembled board, this company has been through a crisis. But we survived. We're stronger now, more transparent, more accountable. The audit revealed weaknesses in our oversight systems. We've fixed them. We've learned from them. I looked around the table at these people who'd stood by me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still CEO, still majority shareholder. But I'm delegating more. Gary will be taking on expanded responsibilities as president and COO. We're bringing in a new CFO with forensic accounting background. We're implementing stronger controls and transparency measures. Gary nodded. He was ready. The past year proved something important. This company can withstand crisis. We can face hard truths, make difficult decisions, and come out stronger. That's the culture I want to build, not one of blind loyalty or family privilege, but one of accountability and merit. The board members nodded approval. Any questions? Silence. Good. Then let's get back to work. After the meeting, Gary walked with me to my office. You could have destroyed the company, he said. Fighting your daughters, all the publicity, the criminal trial. But you didn't. You kept it separate, kept the business running, protected everyone else. That was the point. They tried to use the company as a weapon. I made sure it stayed what it always was. A business, not a family drama. Well, it worked. Stocks recovered. Clients are confident again. We're in good shape. We are, I agreed. Thanks to people like you who kept working while I was fighting. He smiled. Someone had to. That night, Rebecca and I had dinner. Just us, quiet, normal. No lawyers, no reporters, no crisis. I've been thinking, she said, about what comes next. And? I want to travel. Real travel, not business trips. I want to see the world without checking emails every 5 minutes or worrying about quarterly reports. Sounds nice. You're coming with me? Am I? You are. You've spent 5 years planning revenge and the past year executing it. Now you're going to spend time with your wife, remember what life is like when you're not at war. I smiled. Okay. Okay? Just like that? Just like that. You're right. It's time to move on. She raised her glass. To moving on. To moving on, I echoed. We drank. Outside, the city lights sparkled. Tomorrow the company would keep running, the world would keep turning, and we'd begin the next chapter. The revenge was complete. My daughters were in prison. The company was secure. The truth had won. But more importantly, I was free. Free from the anger, the planning, the constant vigilance. Free to live again instead of just fighting. Rebecca reached across the table and took my hand. You did it, she said simply. We did it, I corrected. So now what? I thought about Victoria in her cell, about Lauren on probation, about the empire I'd protected and the family I'd lost. Then I looked at Rebecca, the one person who'd never wavered, never doubted, never abandoned me. Now we live, I said. We actually live, she smiled. I like that plan. And for the first time in 5 years, so did I. The door to my office stood open. Beyond it, the company hummed with activity, people working, building, creating value. The machine I'd built decades ago, still running, still strong. I'd protected it, defended it, fought for it against my own children, and I'd won. Not because I was cruel or vindictive, but because I was right, because actions have consequences, because theft is theft, even when family commits it, because love doesn't mean tolerance for betrayal. The story was over. The revenge was complete. Justice had been served.